This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Donald Trump spends his last day on the campaign trail in 3 crucial battleground states.
Get out and vote.
I'm John Stolnis.
On her final day of campaigning, Kamala Harris focuses on the battleground state of Pennsylvania. I'm Steve Futterman in Philadelphia.
It's not just the presidential race driving Americans to the polls today. I'm Clayton Neville.
A judge rules on Elon Musk's $1 million voting sweepstakes.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a down day with some profit-taking ahead of today's elections. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The vote is in on a 2-month strike against Boeing in the Pacific Northwest, and the Supreme Court says it will rule on a new Louisiana voting district. All ahead on America in the Morning. On his final day on the campaign trail, Donald Trump traveled through 3 battleground states and vowed tariffs against Mexico if they don't stop people from crossing the southern border. Our top story is in from correspondent John Stolnis.
The former president began the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he was joined on stage by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and announced a 25% tariff on Mexican imports if their new president doesn't do more to stop the influx of migrants through our southern border.
And it's only got a 100% chance of working, because if that doesn't work, I'll make it 50. And if that doesn't work, I'll make it 75 for the tough guys, and I'll make it 100. Then I'll make it 100. And at some point, they'll have so many soldiers on their southern border. You know, their southern border is where they come in. They come right through.
Trump also made it clear to rally-goers he expects to win today.
So essentially, you know, they have an expression. I hate the expression, actually, but it's ours to lose. Does that make sense to you? It's ours to lose. If we get everybody out and vote, there's not a thing they can do. And if we don't, they have to get every person that ever signed anything in that horrendously dangerous party that's going to destroy our country.
He then transitioned to Pennsylvania, first stopping in the city of Reading, about 58 miles from Philadelphia, then stopped for a rally in Pittsburgh, where he aimed to convince women voters to vote for him with an appearance by former Fox News journalist Megyn Kelly.
And so here I am at a Trump rally, a strong, intelligent woman, to prove Mark Cuban wrong again.
Kelly and Trump had sparred after a presidential debate in 2020. Trump also reveled in the endorsement of podcasting megastar Joe Rogan, who announced today he was supporting the former president.
That's so nice. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that stuff. And he tends to be a little bit more liberal than some of the people in this room.
Trump appeared on Rogan's podcast for a 3-hour interview last week. Before heading to his final stop of the day, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Trump urged supporters to get to their voting locations and cast their ballots today.
Here's my only purpose in even being here today. Get out and vote.
I'm John Stolnis.
Kamala Harris continues her sprint to the 2024 election finish line, holding several events in Pennsylvania, including knocking on doors in Reading and rallies in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Here's Steve Futterman with that story.
On the day before the election, Kamala Harris spent the entire day campaigning in perhaps the most important state, Pennsylvania. From Scranton to Allentown to Pittsburgh, she ended the evening close to midnight here in Philadelphia. The outdoor rally was attended by thousands. There was also plenty of star power. Ricky Martin performed. And Harris was introduced by Oprah Winfrey.
Philadelphia, welcome the next president of these United States, Kamala Harris!
Good evening, Philadelphia!
In her final speech, Harris talked about the long road finally coming to an end.
One more day, just one more day in the most consequential election of our lifetime, and the momentum is on our side.
She repeated many of her familiar themes.
Our campaign has tapped into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people. We are optimistic and we are excited about what we can do together. And we know it is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
And when Harris talked about attempts to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, she led the crowd in what has become a familiar chant: "We are not going back."
We are not going back. We are not going back. We're not going back.
And at the very end, Harris asked the crowd if it's ready for this final battle.
Are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win.
Harris will spend election night in Washington. I'm Steve Futterman with the Harris campaign in Philadelphia.
The first votes of the 2024 election are in. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have tied with 3 votes each in the tiny New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch, the first town in the nation to cast votes today. The entire town's population, 4 Republicans and 2 undeclared voters participated. Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? It's the only bed that lets you make each side firmer or softer whenever you want. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition Smart Bed. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. Musk's millions will continue after these messages. This is America in the Morning, and here's the all-important Election Day national forecast. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
After showers and thunderstorms brought downpours to areas from the Central Plains and Midwest into south-central Texas, along with some severe weather from Missouri and parts of Arkansas into Oklahoma yesterday, another day of drenching storms can be expected ahead of a cold front from eastern Texas into Louisiana, mainly southern Missouri, and most of Illinois, with storms also extending into Wisconsin and some steadier rain from the upper peninsula of Michigan into eastern Minnesota. While severe weather will be much more localized compared to Monday's event, the risk for flooding will only increase as some of the areas that were drenched yesterday face another round of downpours. Places from the Indianapolis metro area southwestward to the Texas Gulf Coast stand the best risk of gusty, soaking showers and thunderstorms, with cooler, drier air funneling into the northern plains and the upper Midwest this election day. Parts of the West will get into the season's most widespread accumulating snow event so far later today and through tomorrow, with a storm bringing at least 1 to 3 inches of snow from the northeastern corner of Colorado across most areas west of I-25 and including downtown Denver. Snowfall can reach at least 6 to 12 inches from north central Colorado across the state line into parts of far northern New Mexico as well, with snow showers and some periods of steadier snow reaching northward along the Rockies into Canada. Rain and snow showers are expected for western Washington and Oregon. A dry and warmer day is instead in store for the east, with the main exception being northern and coastal New England, where some showers can linger. In St. Louis, expect a windy, cloudy day with showers and a thunderstorm with a high of 70. For Sacramento, look for sunshine much of the time with increasing winds and a high of 72. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. It's not just the candidates that Americans are paying attention to this election day. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports on important ballot questions across the nation.
Voters in 41 states will decide on a total of 146 ballot measures. The issues include election laws, legalizing certain drugs, abortion rights, and other topics like Prop 36 in California, which would increase penalties for some retail and drug crimes. Vice President Kamala Harris voted in her home state of California, but wouldn't tell reporters earlier this week how she voted on that proposition.
I am not going to talk about the vote on that because, honestly, it's the Sunday before the election, and I don't intend to create an endorsement one way or another around it. So
but I did vote.
8 states plus Washington, D.C. are taking up ways elections are decided. Propositions in Colorado and in Idaho would establish a new electoral system. Meanwhile, voters in Florida, North Dakota, and South Dakota will decide whether or not to join the 24 other states where recreational marijuana is legal in the U.S. and abortion on the ballot, too. 5 states could overturn abortion bans at the ballot box, those being Arizona, Missouri, Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota. This in a critical time for states and women's rights following the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which returned decisions on abortion to the states. I'm Clayton Neville.
A Pennsylvania judge rules that Elon Musk's $1 million election sweepstakes can proceed through tonight, election night. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A Pennsylvania judge has ruled that Elon Musk's $1 million a day voter sweepstakes can continue. The ruling comes after Musk's lawyers said the winners are not chosen by chance. A Democratic district attorney in Philadelphia had called the process a scam designed to influence a national election and had asked that it be shut down. A lawyer from Elon Musk says the voters are handpicked to be spokespeople for his GOP America PAC and that the 2 final recipients will be in Arizona and Michigan. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The election's effect on the stock market. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Tuesday Report.
Wall Street's coming off a down day for stocks yesterday. The Dow fell about 250 points. Shares of Intel dragging it lower. Intel leaves that index on Friday to be replaced by superstar AI chip stock NVIDIA, which passed Apple again yesterday to become the world's most valuable company. Some investors are looking for bargains in the bumpiness on Wall Street.
Using any volatility that we get this week from the elections, from earnings, from the Fed, and make a shopping list to be buying because the economy is strong. We're running at about 2.5%, 3% growth. Inflation is coming down. The consumer continues to be spending.
Hightower's Stephanie Link on CNBC. Meantime, one investor tells CNBC stocks may benefit just by having the election in the rear view.
Just having this election being over, actually, it probably is a good thing. And having it be over, do we know who the president's going to be? Is it going to be final? If we know that by Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon, it's actually probably a good thing. It's not something that market's necessarily expecting.
Horizon's Scott Ladner on CNBC. Labor strikes have shut down operations at Canada's container ports from east to west coast. And this impacts the USA in a big way. About a fifth of all goods destined for America come through Canadian ports. The U.S. is Canada's largest trading partner. Containers filled with apparel and footwear, auto parts, chemicals, and lumber are just some of the top products that enter the port of Vancouver and use Canadian rails or trucking to come into the U.S.
Will investors see a rally in the markets after the election?
You know, the markets have been swinging, a little volatile here as we hit today, election day. But stocks often do have what's called a relief rally. There's data.
Going back to 1992, which is as far back as S&P has sector-level data, all sizes, styles, sectors posted advances along with 97% of the sub-industries. So historically, the market does breathe a sigh of relief. Normally, the market, if it rises from July 31 through October 31, the incumbent person or party has been reelected except for 2 times.
CFRA Research's Sam Stovall on CNBC. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Burger King and Tim Hortons parent restaurant brands, Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell parent Yum brands, Archer Daniels Midland, Progressive, Super Micro, and DuPont. We get the PMIs today, the Purchasing Managers Indexes. It's also National Donut Day. There are some deals and discounts at some of the big chains.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, wage increase for striking Boeing workers. After these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The 2-month strike is coming to an end. Union machinists voted to approve a new contract with plane maker Boeing, ending a walkout that paralyzed the company's jet production and cost them an estimated $1 billion each month. The new contract includes a 38% wage increase, improved 401k contributions, and a decrease in health care premiums, but did not include pension incentives the workers wanted. The Supreme Court says it will weigh in on the formation of a new, mostly minority Louisiana congressional district. But as correspondent Norman Hall reports, it won't be in time for today's election.
The Supreme Court says it will take up a new redistricting case involving Louisiana's congressional map with 2 mostly black districts. But the court won't hear arguments until early next year, and the 2024 elections are proceeding under the challenged map. The state's Republican-dominated legislature drew a new congressional map in 2022 to account for population shifts reflected in the 2020 census. But the changes effectively maintained the status quo of 5 Republican-leaning majority white districts and 1 Democratic-leaning majority black district in a state that is about 1/3 black. I'm Norman Hall.
Stay tuned to this station for ongoing Election Day coverage. America in the Morning for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A whirlwind of campaigning to close out election season. I'm Clayton Neville.
Elections officials across the country are working to reassure voters their ballots are safe. I'm Jackie Quinn.
A former police officer who shot and killed Andre Hill has been found guilty in the shooting. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Jury sees the video in a Marine's chokehold on a train. Voter misinformation courtesy of Iran and Russia. And Gulf states on watch as the next hurricane is formed.
New York Times Tech Guild on strike during the election. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
What can you watch today as you wait for the election returns? I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. On where that snow is most likely to accumulate a foot or more into midweek, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A disturbance tracking across the northwest will take a right turn and slide southward over the interior west today, becoming better organized as it does so, and the cold air already in place ahead of this feature will mean a rather expansive snow event taking shape later today, and especially tonight. The time to prepare for some of the most widespread significant snow of the season is today, from the Colorado Rockies through the Palmer Divide south of Denver and along the I-25 corridor into northern New Mexico, where a general 1 to 3 inches of snow can be expected into Wednesday, including around downtown Denver. The highest snowfall amounts of over a foot will be reserved for the highest elevations east of Aspen and northeast of Durango. Otherwise, plenty of energy will be in place over the west to produce periods of snow from Utah northward into western Wyoming and Montana, as well as most of Idaho, with rain showers for the coast of Washington and northern Oregon, along with some mountain snow as the southwest stays dry. For the center of the nation, a drier day is expected after Monday brought showers to parts of the upper Midwest and some severe thunderstorms to eastern Oklahoma and Texas and parts of Missouri along and ahead of a cold front. As this front continues to push north and eastward through the day today, the severe threat will become less widespread and more localized, with the main risk transitioning to flash flooding from the Arklatex area into the Great Lakes region, as some zones currently in a drought will receive more rain at once than the dry ground can absorb, leading to runoff concerns. Showers become more numerous over South Florida through the day, with a warmer and mainly dry election day expected for most of the rest of the east. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Election Eve brought a whirlwind of campaigning for the presidential candidates and their running mates in the Battleground States. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
15 public events were slated for yesterday alone between the presidential candidates and their running mates as the campaigns blitzed the Battleground States. Rallying in North Carolina, former President Trump got a little bit emotional as another campaign comes to an end for Trump.
Think of this. I won't be doing this anymore with North Carolina, and I won't be doing this anymore after today. I'm just thinking as I'm going through this, that this will be our final moment.
He emphasized that his rallies have been historic.
This has never been done before. They'll never have rallies like this.
In Reading, Pennsylvania, Trump didn't hold back against his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris.
You're the most incompetent vice president we've ever had, and Joe Biden was the worst president in the history of our country. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired.
Trump also held rallies in Pittsburgh and in Michigan with an emphatic message to get out and vote.
Just show up and bring your vote, and if you have somebody else that got a little lazy, bring that person too.
Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, jokingly asked voters to vote 10 times.
10 times is to get your friends to the polls and take yourself to the polls and get 9 of your friends and family to go along with you.
Senator Vance hit La Crosse, Wisconsin, Flint, Michigan, Atlanta, Georgia, and Newtown, Pennsylvania.
The day that we vote for change, the day that we vote for lower grocery prices and more affordable housing.
As for Vice President Harris, she spent a lot of the day in Pennsylvania, where she rallied in Allentown and in Scranton.
We are a people-driven campaign, and we love the people, and we see in the face of a stranger a neighbor.
She held star-studded rallies in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, and she insisted that America's not going back.
You know, this whole era of this other guy, what it's done with all that talk that's been about trying to have us point fingers at each other and divide each other, it makes people feel alone. It makes them feel like there's nobody standing with them.
Chants of her campaign slogan from a crowd in Wisconsin, where her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, held an event.
We're not going back.
Wisconsin's governor encouraged the crowd.
Let's dig deep. Let's dig deep, folks. Let's get to work. Let's win this damn thing. Let's go.
Today, Harris will be in D.C. She voted by mail in her home state of California. And former President Trump, he'll be in Florida, where he plans to vote. I'm Clayton Neville.
In Battleground, Pennsylvania, a state with 19 electoral votes that could likely determine the next president, a federal command center to quickly respond to any reports of voting security issues is in place. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports that Al Schmidt, the Republican Secretary of the Commonwealth, told CNN that his state's election process is secure and claims of voter fraud are unfounded.
I was a Republican election commissioner in Philadelphia. I have investigated hundreds of allegations of voter fraud, and that's why I feel like I can speak with some degree of authority and knowledge about when it occurs and when it doesn't occur. And allegations of widespread voter fraud in Pennsylvania are completely and totally unfounded. Voters should have confidence that we will have a free, fair, safe, and secure election in 2024, just as we had in 2020.
Elections officials across the country are working to reassure voters their ballots are safe, and the FBI is also gearing up to handle any complaints.
Criminal threats, such as threats to election workers, foreign malign influence, cyber threats, and acts of domestic violence. So the FBI is looking at all those threats that come in. Here in the command post, we're triaging that information.
FBI Deputy Assistant Director James Barnacle says a new command center is running 24/7 for the next week or so to make sure agents can quickly respond to any threats to voters, campaign workers, or voter integrity.
The criminal division, the counterintelligence division, the cyber division, the weapons of mass destruction division. This operation is going to run 24/7 for the National Election Week. Be staffed by about 80 people. Each shift will be running all day, all night, and we'll be dealing with any election-related security issues that come in.
With the Republican National Committee posting thousands of poll monitors, there are concerns of potential harassment of voters and poll workers. Some polling stations have added panic buttons and bulletproof glass. I'm Jackie Quinn.
In the Middle East, Israel has officially put the United Nations on notice that the agency responsible for delivering aid to Palestinians in Gaza will no longer be allowed to operate inside Israel. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports the announcements being challenged by the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, despite Israeli claims that a number of its paid workers cooperated and took part in attacks on Israel.
Israel has said it had terminated the agreement facilitating the work of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the main aid provider in Gaza. The move appears to be a step to implement legislation passed last month that would sever ties with the agency and prevent it from operating in Israel. Speaking a few days earlier, Louise Wateridge, a senior emergency officer for UNRWA, says its work is crucial for other agencies to operate in Gaza, which is experiencing continuous bombing and widespread despair.
I don't even want to imagine the reality on the ground if the largest aid operation in the Gaza Strip is prevented from doing their jobs. Because at the moment, they're doing everything they can to keep people going.
Israeli legislation would halt UNRWA's operations in the occupied Palestinian territories. The desperation for aid was evident as people scrambled as UNRWA distributed aid in central Gaza. Even then, many still went without. Ahmed Mansour, a displaced Palestinian from Gaza City, told the AP, "Every time I come, they tell me there's no flour, wait for your turn. I came today, and this is the third time I've come to receive it, and I couldn't because of the crowds, as you can see." Israel says the agency, known as UNRWA, has been infiltrated by Hamas. UNRWA denies the allegations and says it takes measures to ensure its neutrality. I'm Karen Shamas.
What countries are behind U.S. election misinformation? When America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. The verdict is in for an ex-police officer in the 2020 shooting death of an unarmed man in Columbus, Ohio. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
A former police officer who shot and killed Andre Hill has been found guilty in the shooting.
We, the jury, being duly impounded and sworn, to find the defendant, Adam Coy, guilty of murder as he stands charged in count 1 of the indictment.
That's Franklin County Court Judge Stephen McIntosh.
We, the jury, being duly impounded and sworn, to find the defendant, Adam Coy, guilty of reckless homicide as he stands charged in count 3 of the indictment and what appear to be 12 signatures.
A jury convicted former Columbus officer Adam Coy of murder. Coy testified during the trial that he thought Andre Hill was holding a gun and going to shoot him, so he fired 4 times. Hill was holding a cell phone and keys in his hands when he was shot in December 2020. Prosecutors say Hill was complying and posed no threat when he was killed inside a Columbus garage. Coy is scheduled to be sentenced on November 25th. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The jury in the New York City subway chokehold case sees video that led to veteran Daniel Penny's manslaughter charge. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Jurors in New York City have seen video of Daniel Penny gripping a man around the neck on a subway train as another passenger pleads with the Marine veteran to let go. The video, shot by a high school student, was shown in court Monday at the manslaughter trial surrounding Jordan Neely's 2023 death. It shows Penny on the subway floor gripping Neely's head in the crook of his left arm, with his right hand atop Neely's head. In it, you hear an unseen bystander saying, "Neely is dying, let him go." Prosecutors say Penny recklessly killed Neely, who was homeless and mentally ill. He had frightened passengers on the train. Penny has pleaded not guilty. He claims self-defense. Julie Walker, New York.
In Washington, D.C., authorities are erecting new security fencing around the White House and the Naval Observatory, where Vice President Kamala Harris resides. The barriers are said to be what are part of heightened security precautions as officials brace for potential unrest in the aftermath of a presidential contest expected to come down to the wire. Crews also put up new fencing around Howard University, where Harris is holding her watch party tonight, and fencing and other safety measures are also being installed around the Palm Beach County Convention Center in Florida, where Donald Trump is slated to hold his election night watch party. From outside the country, The U.S. government is warning about election misinformation coming from both Iran and Russia. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Federal law enforcement, intelligence, and election security agencies have debunked 2 new examples of Russian election disinformation. In a joint statement, they point to a recent article posted by Russian actors falsely claiming that U.S. officials across presidential swing states were orchestrating a plan to commit fraud. They also highlighted a video that falsely depicts an interview with an individual claiming election fraud in Arizona. They warn that Russia will likely release more manufactured content on Election Day. The aim? To undermine the legitimacy of the election, instill fear in voters regarding the election process, and suggest Americans are using violence against each other due to political preferences. The efforts, they say, risk inciting violence, including against election officials. I'm Ben Thomas.
First time in 60 years, a news guild strike is happening at the New York Times during a presidential election. Unlike 6 decades ago, during this strike comes an offer from an AI company to step in and support the paper. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
The New York Times Tech Guild is on strike, and it will likely continue throughout one of their busiest times, Election Day. Yesterday, journalist Max Tanney posted an email from the publisher A.G. Schultzberger regarding a New York Times Tech Guild strike and emphasized that hundreds of millions of readers depend on the New York Times on Election Day. Schultzberger also said that it's troubling that the Tech Guild would try to block this public service at such a consequential moment for our country. Not long after the tweet was made public, Aravind Srinivas, CEO of the AI company Perplexity, responded to the news, quoting Tanney's post in a bold marketing plea with a message directed to Schultzberger. He told the New York Times publisher that Perplexity is on standby to help ensure your essential coverage is available all through the election. Other Twitter commenters replied with much more colorful language. In a statement from the Tech Guild, they say management has failed to address key concerns, including hybrid work productions, just cause job protections, and pay equity. I'm Chuck Palm.
Tuesday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Monday Night Football, the Chiefs fought off the Buccaneers 30-24 in overtime to improve to 8-0. 3 TD passes for Patrick Mahomes, 2 to DeAndre Hopkins in his second game since coming over in a trade with the Titans.
Just communicating every day, just about looks that we see, and me just picking his brain. I'm always learning and just seeing how he does things.
Week 10 begins Thursday night in Baltimore with the Bengals at the Ravens. Dak Prescott will be out of the Cowboys lineup for several weeks with a hamstring injury. NBA Monday, all 30 teams in action. The Cavaliers kept pace with the Chiefs. Cleveland 8-0 after a win over the Bucks. Darius Garland had 39 points. Thunder now 7-0. They topped the Magic. Jazz beat the Bulls for their first win. Utah the last team to break through. Monday was also the beginning of the college basketball season. 19 of the top 25 teams in action, including number 6 Gonzaga, pummeling 8th-ranked Baylor in a rematch of the 2021 national championship game. Everybody else in the top 10 won. A near upset on the women's side as defending national champion South Carolina escaped with a 6-point win over Michigan. The Gamecocks haven't lost since the national semifinals 2 seasons ago. Baseball, Garrett Cole reversed course and opted back into his deal with the Yankees. 4 years, $144 million. And 13 players received qualifying offers, including Teoscar Hernandez of the World Series champion Dodgers and Juan Soto of the Yankees. Their old teams will get draft pick compensation if they sign elsewhere. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, election coverage too much? Try these politically based movies after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. A giant of the music business, one of its most powerful forces for more than half a century. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports on the passing of Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones's father was forced to make ends meet by working for mobsters. Jones grew up seeing Tommy guns and dead bodies, so when he was 10, he and his friends wanted to be gangsters. Jones said in a 2008 AP interview they broke into an armory because they heard there was pie in there too. After eating a meringue pie, Jones broke into an office and had an epiphany.
I saw a piano, closed the door, and thank God I went back in there. That piano told me, this is what you're going to be doing the rest of your life.
Jones said if he had not liked pie, his life would have been a lot different.
My whole dream in life was to make whoever I worked with sing better than they ever sang before. That takes love. It takes love and respect for the artist and understanding what the range is about, when it's time for them to take a rest and go get a cup of coffee or something instead of doing 20 more takes. There were a lot of decisions because the relationship between a producer and an artist is like a romance. It's very, very, very close, because his career is on the line.
Jones has died at the age of 91. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
The talk today will, of course, be about the election, but Kevin Carr takes a look at some political movies and television that could be worth watching.
If you're feeling anxious about election news, here are some on-topic things you can watch as a distraction.
Cast your vote for Tracy Flick next week.
Who knew how high she would climb in life? I had to stop her.
Alexander Payne's 1999 comedy Election, available on Paramount Plus, follows a race for high school president fraught with underhanded tactics.
Mr. Johnson, your vote didn't count. You're entitled to recast your ballot in a timely manner.
The 2008 comedy Swing Vote on Prime Video features an election so close the deciding vote comes down to one man.
We can distract the press for 11 days till the election. I think we got a chance.
Oscar winner Barry Levinson directed the 1997 satire Wag the Dog about manipulation of the media, available on VOD.
Dwayne Elizondo Camacho, 5-time Ultimate SmackDown champion, porn superstar, and President of the United States.
And if you just want to laugh, check out Mike Judge's 2006 film Idiocracy on Hulu, about a man who wakes up 500 years in the future to find a dumbed-down human race. You can also binge-watch NBC's Parks and Recreation on Peacock, a hilarious look at local politics.
I was in favor of closing the border's bookstore, not the border to Mexico.
And for a darkly comedic take inside the Beltway, check out HBO's Veep on Max.
Well, Amy, Dan, who do you feel will win tonight?
It's so close.
So close.
It's a tough call to make.
Finally, why not avoid politics altogether with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on Sling TV?
Open it, Charlie. Let's see that golden ticket.
I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day 2024, is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.